PES Day is celebrated every year in the month of April on the occasion of Power Engineering Society changing its name to Power Energy Society. This year's theme for PES Day is Clean Energy Revolution, and the topic for today's webinar is green hydrogen from renewable energy. I welcome our respected director, our PES Tracker advisor, and speaker for today's session, that is Anupma Thakur ma'am, and all the participants to this illuminating talk. Thank you all for being here today. I would like to welcome our director to say a few words. Excuse me, sir, you're on mute.
Very good evening to all the dignitaries and the esteemed participants on the occasion of 4th IEEE Day. This webinar is being organized by the student branch of MSIT IEEE chapter. Let me take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Anupma Thakur for sharing her experiences on this occasion. Climate change is perhaps one of the largest problems humanity has faced. Our world is changing faster than ever. Thus, this year's theme, Clean Energy Revolution, is very relevant and important in today's context. As the Educational Technical Institute, we at MSIT must educate our students and the faculty on the solution and technological developments in these areas to address the crisis. I am glad to share that Maharaja Surajmal Institute of Technology was established 20 years before under the aegis of Maharaja Surajmal Education Society. MSIT is approved by AICTE and affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh University. We offer Bachelor of Technology BTech courses in CSE, IT, TC and EEE streams with our highly experienced, qualified and research-oriented faculty. I would like to proudly share that MSIT is NAAC grade accredited ISO certified institute and all its programs are NBA accredited. We are ranked 3rd in North Zone and 8th in across India among top private engineering colleges by India Today magazine 2020. We are also rated as the best private engineering college in Delhi and also adorned with outstanding technical institute award by the NITTR Chandigarh. MSIT prominently appear in the IP University tally of gold medals in academics and sports. Importantly, the institute has excellent placement record in reputed companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Infosys, and many others. I congratulate all the participants for attending the webinar. I also take opportunity to appreciate tireless effort of our faculty and staff for hosting this program in MSIT. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, sir, for your words of enlightenment. Now I would like to say a few words about Anupma Thakur ma'am, our esteemed speaker for today's session. Ma'am is currently a DST Inspire Senior Research Fellow and pursuing PhD at CSIR CSI, Chandigarh. She earned a gold medal in MTech in Nanoscience and Nanotechnology from the Punjab University and for BTech in Electronics and Communication Engineering from Eternal University. She is a well-established young nanotechnologist in the field of nanomaterials and material science for designing sensors and energy harvesting devices. She has published more than 20 international high-impact publications, 10 book chapters, more than 20 conference papers, and delivered 10 oral talks. Some of her other achievements include a gold medal for National Academic Excellence at Indo-Global Education Summit 2013 from Government of India. Best Oral Presentation Award at IEEE Conference 2014. Best Academic Excellence Alumni Award 2017 from Punjab University, and many more. It's a great honor to have you here with us today. Now, I would request Anupma ma'am to begin the session. All the participants can write their queries in the chat box.
Yes, thank you, Parul, for a wonderful introduction. So, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen now. Yes, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Parul in the slideshow mode now?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm sharing again. Please confirm now.
Yes, ma'am, it's not in the slideshow mode.
Okay, wait. Yes, is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So thank you so much. So firstly, I pay my regards to the IEEE MSIT family, and it's an honor to deliver a talk at the IEEE PES 2021 Delhi celebrations. So catering the theme of PES Day 2020, that is Clean Energy Revolution. So I present here my work, which is focused on green hydrogen from renewable energy, which will cover the technology outlook for the energy transition. So we believe that the green hydrogen that we are working upon is a new energy accelerator, and this work is being carried out at CSIR Chandigarh and is sponsored by Department of Science and Technology. So moving ahead, the coming to the main problem rationale. So we consider the world total energy consumption. So we feel that there is more dependence on the fossil fuels as compared to other fuels that we have in and around. So if you look into the figures, so more than 70% we rely on the fossil fuels, and only 19% dependence today we are on the renewable energy. So having more dependence on the fossil fuels actually result in various CO2 emissions into the environment. So this is the global challenge we are facing today. And the other second global challenge we are facing is the climate change based on the CO2 emissions that we have into the environment. So if we look into the world map, so if we consider India, so we have more than 110 million CO2 emissions per hour that is being generated, and that actually contributes to huge pollution in the environment as well as tremendous climate changes. So focusing on that, if we look into the energy projection over the time, so we believe that with increasing world population, there is a huge energy demand which is increasing. But while if we consider about the fossil fuels and the reserves we have, the production rate is decreasing. So this red shows the decrease in supply chain, and this blue line dots actually configure that we have huge energy demand which is rising with the increase in population over the years. So this actually creates a benchmark for and a research problem on which we are working, that we need to have some alternate fuel sources which can fulfill our energy demands for future. So looking into that, if we set up the scene, so we are basically highlighting global CO2 emissions that we have in the environment. So what sectors are actually contributing to these huge CO2 emissions? Firstly, we have, if we consider, is the power sector, which contributes about 38% to CO2 emissions. Then we have the industrial sector, wherein we further categorize them into iron steel industry, cement, chemical, aluminium, paper. So they all in total contribute for more than 12% for the CO2 emissions into the environment. Then we have buildings as well as other sectors, like we consider even the transport sector we have. So all these sectors are actually in and out, actually contributing to huge CO2 emissions, which is actually resulting in the environmental change as well as the climate change. So basically, this is a breakdown of all the global energy-related CO2 emissions in the environment. And if we look into the decarbonization technologies that we have today, like we have CO2 emission, CO2 reduction, the technology which is being used at the research level today. So that way we are actually trying to reduce this CO2 into the carbon fuels like methanol, alcohols, and other fuels of carbon. So that is one technology which is coming up in the market. But still, if you look into the figures, so we still believe that there will be around 1/3 of energy-related emissions, basically CO2 emissions, that we cannot actually economically decarbonize. So still, we need to have a day when we will have to live with these CO2 emissions. But there is a scarcity of energy over time, and we need to have some alternate fuels. So that is the nutshell idea about how the scene is getting set up and what we need to move ahead in this direction. So looking into the energy transition that I'll be discussing here. So basically, this is the bigger picture, and we are now focusing on from fossil fuels to green fuels. So focused onto that. So the first graph actually discusses about the renewables share that we have into TFEC. TFEC is the total final energy consumption in percentage. So if we talk about the year 2015, so this actually had 18% share of the 18% of share of the renewables, and that also considering the three main sectors, that is transport, industrial, and electricity. Though then based on this, this is the source for this information is IRENA, and basically considering that they projected that by 2050 we will be able to rely about 25% on these renewables. That too considering further, this is the breakdown of these sector wise. And further, if we look into the great further projection onto these renewables, so we aim that we, even after harvesting all kinds of renewable energies that we have, we'll be able to harvest them for and utilize them about 65%. So this way, this is the representation of renewables, keeping in focus for the future. And that too further breakdown, doing the breakdown of these renewable energies into various the renewable sources that we have today, like geothermal, then we have bioenergy, then we have solar PV. So this is the further breakdown of this renewable energy sources. So we consider that by 2050 we will have highest contributions coming from solar, and that way we need to have solar energy harvesting devices in which we can convert this solar energy either to chemical fuel or to electrical fuel. So by converting this solar energy to electrical energy, so we have established technology, that is solar cells. We have into the market photovoltaics. But the next technology is the PEC cells. Those are photoelectrochemical cells which convert the solar energy to chemical fuel. And that chemical fuel is hydrogen, which we'll be talking about in this whole presentation. So that way we are now today talking about PEC cells, that is photoelectrochemical cells. And if we consider that focused onto that, we believe that hydrogens will be able to provide the largest share for the world energy consumption and fulfill the demands of the world population. So focused onto that, considering the sustainable development goals, so we are focusing here onto developing the affordable and clean energy. So the Indian government as well as the other world governments, they all are working on to focus onto this sustainable goal, that is affordable and clean energy. And in regard to this, we have Nav Bharat Nirman, the mission of Government of India, which is focusing on to the promoting innovative ecosystems for producing this affordable, renewable and clean energy solutions. So under this theme, we are here focusing on solar energy harvesting. So this is the world map which shows that the annual solar energy radiation which comes to the surface of the Earth. So considering the latitude and the longitudinal values of India, so we have huge amount of solar radiation coming at the surface. So we need to have some energy harvesting technologies by which we can harvest this energy and further store it and use and convert it into the applicable form of energy which can be accountable in various sectors of the usability. So for this, we have various solar energy harvesting systems which are already in market. Like we have the, as I already discussed, we have solar cells based on nanoparticles, multi-junction, silicon, PV, photovoltaic water systems are also there. So the idea behind is that the efficient solar energy harvesting as well as its conversion to usable form of energy. So focused onto that, we are now coming to hydrogen as a chemical fuel, which we are proposing here. So basically what we'll be doing, we'll be converting the solar energy into chemical fuel, that is hydrogen. Now the question arises, why only this hydrogen? So now we need to have some clear idea about the fact that why we are focusing on to hydrogen. So the things here is that firstly it is a clean fuel. Why we call it clean is because it does not result in any CO2 emissions into the environment. Like if we use coal, so if we use coal as in any of the application, so definitely the CO2 will be its byproduct, which will be emitted into the environment. But the beauty of hydrogen is that when we produce this hydrogen, so we have no CO2 emissions, as well as when we use the produced hydrogen in any of the application, be it transport sector or any industrial sector, there will be only water will be the byproduct. There will be no CO2 as a byproduct. So that way, we call it clean as an alternate fuel. Apart from that, it has high energy content. It has 147 kilojoule per mole, the energy density of hydrogen, which is far high from the coal and other petrol, diesel fuels that we have today. And the geological abundance of hydrogen is the another main factor. It is the third most common element on Earth's surface, and it is present in various molecular forms like water, fossil fuel, biomass. So for this production that we'll be talking here about green hydrogen, so we'll be using water as the source for hydrogen production. So if we talk about the cycle of renewable hydrogen, so this is the way how I'll take you to the journey how this green hydrogen production takes place. So here what we do, we take water as a source and we take solar energy as the driver. So this, by imparting this solar energy, we can split this water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen which get produced can be utilized, can be stored and further utilized in various forms of applications, and further we can use it in various applications as I stated earlier. So now what happens, like what is the energy chain of this hydrogen that we are working upon? So starting from the production that we are doing today at lab scale, and further industries are also focusing on it, and they have started doing its mass production as well. And in some countries, I'm happy to share that various fuel cell based vehicles are already in process. So that way, this production of hydrogen and its utilization is at par today. And many countries are already investing in this hydrogen and by using it as an alternate fuel. So starting from production is that it's a delivery. So as it's hydrogen, so we have various myths about hydrogen. Yes, that its storage is a problem, but not today. Earlier, the storage of hydrogen was a problem, but today we have cryogenic cylinders, we have various nanocomposite-based materials which actually, we can store this hydrogen and further, transfer these hydrogen from one part of the country to the another part of the country. So that way, we have compressed liquefied materials also, which are used for storage of this hydrogen, and then we convert it into the useful form of energy. So we have fuel cells technology, which is well established today. So we have that fuel cells which convert this chemical fuel, that is hydrogen, into electrical energy, and further this is used in various applications, be it a transport sector, industrial, or any electricity grid, and various applications. So this is the hydrogen energy chain. So moving ahead, so what is the state of the art for hydrogen? So where this hydrogen stands today? So considering that, as I said, it's a high energy content and clean fuel. So these are the breakdown of the sectors wherein hydrogen is abundantly being used today. So we have chemical sector, which has the key application of hydrogen for ammonia, polymers and resin-based application. So here about 65% of hydrogen global demand is there in this chemical industrial sector. Then we have refining and iron and steel industries. There also we have this hydro cracking, hydro treating applications. So there we require about 25% of hydrogen. And then we have general industry like semiconductor or other glass production industries. So here less than 10 and around 10% is the hydrogen demand. So all these demands today are being fulfilled by some hydrogen sources which are already available. So those are by from natural gas, oil, coal, is the maximum. These three are the major contributors which actually help in various thermal processes are there by which we treat these fuels and convert them into hydrogen. Like the main process is coal gasification. So that is one kind of thermal process in which the coal is getting breakdown and further we get hydrogen, and further that hydrogen is being used in various industries. But I must say that all these processes actually result in CO2 emissions. Okay, these are not eco-friendly processes which are there today. And then only 4% contribution is from electrolysis. But the problems and the challenges associated with electrolysis are that the materials being used in electrolysis, they get corroded over time. They don't have good aqueous stability because those are metal electrodes. So the stability and then the poor efficiency of these materials is the challenge. And based on all these challenges that we have today for hydrogen sources comes a research problem which actually invites researchers and other groups to have some sustainable solutions by which we can produce this hydrogen in a clean way. So focus to that, based on every fact that we have discussed till now. So we believe that hydrogen and electricity, they both are the energy carriers, but the fact is that they both are complementary to each other in this energy transition that we all are in today. See, being electricity, so we have electrical vehicles already running. Okay, so those all are basically focused on electricity as an energy carrier. But there's another technology which is coming up, that is fuel cell based electrical vehicles, which are run on hydrogen as an energy carrier. So these both are complementary techniques, but they both are contributing to this energy transition. But if we have this green hydrogen from renewables, so that is the technical potential solution that we can have for this large amount of renewable energies to various sectors. And considering the fact that we have so many electrical vehicles on ground, so they all are contributing to huge generation of electrical waste. So we don't have such sustainable techniques and processes still today by which we can recycle these batteries. So that again is piling up to huge this battery waste and electrical waste which is getting generated. So considering the fact, we believe that hydrogen, the green hydrogen that we'll produce from renewable energy, can be a probable and sustainable solution for this energy transition. So focused onto that comes the technique which I'll be talking today. So that technique is known as photoelectrochemical water splitting process. So what happens, this water splitting process is a normal process in which we decompose water into hydrogen and oxygen. But the fact here lies is that, if we use electrical energy to break this hydrogen and oxygen, that process is known as electrolysis. And this is well known to everyone today. Okay. But, this water splitting can be done by the influence of various and other energies. It could be a biochemical energy. It could be a photonic. Water splitting process, it is, energy driven process. Okay. But we all have studied about electrolysis, but we know that there are challenges in this process. So we need to have some other, very efficient processes which can help us to produce this hydrogen in a good and sustainable manner. So focusing on to other energy-driven processes that we have today. So they have other, pros and cons. Okay, but focusing on the fact that we have huge solar radiation available with us, so we can harvest this solar energy and convert it into the hydrogen fuel. So that way we are focusing here onto this photonic energy, harvesting the abundant solar light and converting it into hydrogen as a chemical fuel. So to do so, I'll be explaining this photoelectrochemical water splitting process with this, animation. So what happens is that we have, being from material science and background, so basically we have, the photoactive materials which actually harvest the solar energy. And these photons actually excite these materials because they are photoactive and they have good, charge separation properties. So based on that, we excite these materials with the photons, and that material get energized, and further it participates in this water splitting reaction. So in this process, we don't require any metal electrodes, which actually, have poor stability, and they have other various challenges associated with them. So here what happens, if we have this, photons coming from the solar cell, solar light, so they actually energize this photoanode material. So as it is a semiconductor material, so it has charge carrier generation at its surface. So what happens, like it's a semiconductor, so the electrons will channel from the valence band to the conduction band. So the holes that are created at the valence band of this electrode, they participate in water oxidation reaction. So water oxidation reaction, what happens at water oxidation is that the water, okay, it gets split into half mole of oxygen and 2 H plus ions. Okay, this is the chemical reaction that is taking place at the surface of this electrode. So and the electrons they get channelized using this electrical contact because it's a two electrode system. So electrons get channeled, but H plus ions stay at the surface. So these H plus ion gets attracted towards the second electrode, which is the counter electrode at the to complete the cell reaction. So we have this counter electrode. So they get attracted to due to the negative polarity of the next electrode. So what happens at this electrode? We get hydrogen as a product. So that way we have hydrogen which is getting produced at the second electrode, and we collect this hydrogen and use in various applications. So now the challenge here is, the decomposition happens, but the stability and the other factors of, harvesting huge, absorption of the solar light are the challenging factors in this way. And people are working in order to increase the efficiency of this hydrogen production. Okay. So now coming on to the fact that what are the research trends and methods for this hydrogen production. So we'll be discussing here the research timeline, like what technologies are coming up, what is the state of the art, what methods are being employed, and what is the national and international status, and what are the choice of materials for these processes. So considering the fact that now we are focusing on renewable hydrogen production, so what are the pathways? So pathways here, like as I stated earlier, so we have, we can have various energy-driven processes. So we can have solar irradiation as a process. We can use wind energy also. We can have other biomass-based technologies also. Okay, so based on that, there are various pathways for renewable hydrogen production, but we are more focused on this photonic energy harvesting-based processes because firstly, we have huge abundance of the solar energy, and the fact is that we need to harvest it in a very, wise manner. So to have this technological forefront in this domain. So that way, this considers the fact that we will be harvesting this. Now coming to the state of the art. So what is the research trends in this domain? So basically, firstly, people are focused on the synthetic approaches for designing these photoactive materials. Then choice of catalyst, like what kind of material shall be used, like whether it has to be a pure visible light sensitizer or a hybrid or a heterojunction, or and next is what kind of water spreading processes that can be employed for harvesting this green hydrogen energy. So that way, this is the timeline which I'll be discussing here. So this process was, far investigated in 1972 by the great scientist Honda and Fujima. So that way, they investigated TiO2 as a material, that is titanium dioxide, as a photocatalyst for this water spreading reaction. So they achieved around 0.2% efficiency in this domain. So starting from then till today, people are working on various materials to have good efficiency of this hydrogen production. So various materials, a library of materials are available, but still they lack in some stability, some absorption efficiencies. So that way still we have achieved only 8% STH, that is solar to hydrogen conversion efficiency in this domain. And still, various groups are working in order to have good efficiency rates. So following to this, so if we come, review the literature for this, so we see that the research group interest worldwide is increasing has greatly increased over the decade. But if we consider the Indian scenario, so that also states that various groups are working in this domain and they really want to tap this hydrogen energy and have great industrial approaches for its implementation. So based on that, what are the key challenges, like what people are actually looking into? So, if we consider the fact is that we are targeting onto STH, that is solar to hydrogen conversion efficiency. So if we look into the fact, so, only less than 2% reports are available, which have, around 64%, reports are available, which have efficiency less than 2%. Then more than 10% reports are there. And the other fact is that we need to have good photocurrent density, that is, great conversion of these photons into the hydrogen efficiency. So we see only 10% reports are there, which have current density more than 25 milliampere per centimeter square. So we can see that, there is a huge, research efforts required in this domain in order to have good materials for this photon absorption as well as conversion into chemical fuel. So considering the fact, like what are the fabrication and the stability of these photoelectrodes? So if we look into the fabrication methods, so the methods that are largely available today are mainly focused on the molecular beam epitaxial approaches, in which by which these photoelectrodes are fabricated. But the cost and as well as the huge labor employed in these techniques create a challenge for its mass production. So the various chemical routes are being investigated in this domain, by which we can fabricate these electrodes with a good efficiency. So that is again one research problem which is being taken up by various research groups. And the last and the most important factor is the stability of these electrodes. So around only 13% electrodes are available there which have stability more than 5 hours. So if we can imagine to have a hydrogen dependent future for any of the sector that we have, so we need to have huge stability of electrodes, and that way we can produce high amount of hydrogen. So still stability is a big issue, but people are working upon this, and many nanocomposites based electrodes are coming up, and they ensure that the stability of the materials is quite high. So with this, the foundation of the research lies here in this domain of green hydrogen production. Is the solar to hydrogen conversion efficiency, then the durability and lifetime photoelectrodes, and the production cost. So based on that, it's very important to choose the materials for water splitting, because the material that we choose for this water splitting and the photoelectrode fabrication, that material need to have certain merits. So those merits include band gap material should be in such a way that it can harvest a huge amount of sunlight. Then the band edge positions, photon absorption, stability, as I stated earlier. Then the another factor is the plentifulness. See, if you work on the materials which are rare earth metals, and they have a high cost, so that will not help us in the if we see hydrogen as a future. So we need to work on materials which are earth abundant, like could be nickel based, could be cobalt, could be iron based materials which can have which we have high abundance on the earth crust. So that way, another fact is the non-toxicity of the materials, because see, as we are working in this energy domain, so it is very important to look into the fact that it does not pollute our environment. So that way, clean energy should also result into clean environment. So that way, the choice of material is very important in this area. So these are kind of band edge potentials for water splitting. So as we want to, so this is the science behind how this water splitting takes place. So the science here is the water redox potential, that is 1.23 volt. So we need to have materials which have their conduction band edge and valence band edge that straddle across the redox potential of water. So by using this core science behind like how we need to choose the materials such that they can participate in these water redox reactions. So another is the what are the benchmarking efficiencies in these techniques. So if we call green hydrogen as a highly efficient alternate fuel, so we need to have good STH. And there are some other, diagnostic efficiencies also that we call, like it is IPC, that is incident photon conversion efficiency. Then we have APC, AVP. So these kind of efficiencies are, benchmarking efficiencies for this technique, which are calibrated and calculated by various research groups. And there are several experimental considerations also for this green hydrogen production. Like, it could be 2 electrode system, it could be 3 electrode system, depending upon the, what kind of methodology we are adopting for this hydrogen production. So there are various hydrogen potentials also, which are considered in this PEC water splitting. Like largely adopted is this RHE, that is reversible hydrogen electrode potential. And then, when we say that this photoelectrode is efficient enough, so there are some assessment metrics also, like how we come to know that the photoelectrode is good at its design and is efficient enough. So what we do, when we design experiments, so we need to follow this flow chart, which actually takes into account all the characteristic properties, like whether it's a characterization of the material and how good it is band gap, then what are the desirable characteristics for the Frederick efficiency calculations, and then thereafter we calculate its STH and stability conditions. So these are some of the highlights from our contributions. So largely we have contributed in 5-6 photoelectrodes in this domain with a high efficiencies, that is ABP, that is absorbed by bias photocurrent efficiencies. So with various problems that we have taken up, so we have published this literature, and we contributed to reach maximum 2.6% efficiency with waste derived photoelectrodes. So these are our success stories. And we also have considered, reviewed the complete literature and published a review in the CEG journal, where we have showcased how good and compared the available photoelectrodes. So this is the master review that we have published in this domain. So focused on that, I'll be discussing just one success story of ours. So we have this, unique and the first time forever, we have fabricated this flexible paper-based photoelectrode. So we have filed the patent as well for this method. So this was the first, flexible substrate based photoelectrode for this PEC water splitting process. So based on that, we have also developed a lab-based prototype device. And this hardware development has encouraged the industries to collaborate further with us. And we are now working on the real-time industrial projects. So this is a short video in which we have Arduino-based system which we have developed for this hydrogen production. So we can see that this is the solar simulator which mimics the actual sunlight, and this is the photoelectrode that we have placed here. So when we energize this material with the solar irradiation, so this is the hydrogen that is getting produced. So this is the live demonstration that I'm able to show you here, and this hydrogen is which gets produced and further be collected, and it is used in various other applications. So now coming to the fact that what is the potential market potential and applications of this produced hydrogen that we have done using PEC water splitting. So now we will be discussing here various technologies which are there for this energy transition that we are talking today. So highlighting the fact and comparing hydrogen with various other fuels that we have today. So if we consider, as I stated earlier, the fuel, efficiency of hydrogen is one key factor which have actually, created and, great interest of the audience. So the thing is the 60% fuel efficiency of this fuel is the major factor, and the energy density. That is 142 kilojoule per kg. So that is quite high as compared to other fuels. So these are the two main parameters by which people are focusing more on hydrogen, and they believe that this can be a great alternate fuel for future. So considering the fact, we need to have some technologies which actually utilize the produced hydrogen in various useful energy forms. So see, production is one part of the story, but utilizing the produced hydrogen is the another part of the story. So now we are into the second part, where we'll be talking about the technologies which are available there for its conversion from chemical fuel to electrical fuel. So for that, we have various primary energy sources, energy converters and applications. So talking about the fuel cell technologies, we have various kind of fuel cells which are available today, like proton exchange membrane fuel cell. We have alkaline, direct methanol, phosphoric acid, molten carbonate and solid oxide fuel cell. These are already there. But the fuel cells, which are used for this hydrogen chemical fuel cell conversion are the proton exchange membrane fuel cells. So why they are used is because of the fact that we are here focusing on conversion of hydrogen to the electrical energy. So in this proton exchange membrane fuel cell, we have a proton exchange membrane, which actually helps us to transfer these H plus ions from the one electrode to the another electrode. So in this, this is the design strategy of these proton exchange membrane fuel cells. So we have an anode and cathode again here. So, anode is basically a platinum catalyst based material which is used here. So, the hydrogen which we have produced earlier is injected at this anode electrode. Okay, so that injected hydrogen is catered at this anode electrode, and then we have this polymer exchange membrane. So these the hydrogen which is here, that hydrogen gets split into positive H plus ions and negatively charged electrons. So the electrons get channelized using the electrical contact, but the H plus ions, they get they are channeled through this polymer proton exchange membrane to cathode. So H plus ions plus this electrons which get channelized plus the oxygen from air. They all combine to form water as a byproduct and electrical energy as a output signal. So that way the produced electrical energy is further used in various applications, be it a transport sector or any electrical grid or industrial sector. So that way this produced green hydrogen is being used in various applications. And one great success story are like the fuel cell based electrical vehicles, which are already running in Australia, Japan and many other countries. So based on this, as we started from water, we are again ending up at water only, because the byproduct of this whole technology is water only. So moving ahead, they are the fact, as I stated earlier, so we have, hydrogen storage technologies also far developed today. So we have metal hydrides, we have liquid tanks, which have good storage density for this hydrogen. We have carbon nanostructure based materials also, which actually are graphene based materials, which actually store this hydrogen in a better way. And, more hydrogen can be stored in less capacities. So moving ahead, so this is the kind of integrated energy system for the future of green hydrogen. So this way, we produce hydrogen and how it gets channeled, how it gets integrated with various other systems, how the device design and the transport automobile sector designs will change. So that all technologies are coming up, and people are really, working in this domain. Where several industries are already contributing, be it Indian Oil, be it Bharat Petroleum. They all are looking into hydrogen as a green future, and they have huge investments that we are making and research that is going on behind. So we believe that hydrogen is a new energy accelerator, and it will cater the energy demands. And if you talk about various industrial beneficiaries, be it Indian market or be it universal market, so there are many countries, like many industries, which are ready to take hydrogen as a technology transfer. So what are the hydrogen drivers in Indian scenario? So here we'll be discussing about some further technologies and Indian scenario and the hydrogen roadmap for India. So firstly, as we have discussed all about green hydrogen, so what are the main benefits of hydrogen as an energy carrier? So starting from the health benefits, as we are promoting an eco-friendly environment, so it has no harmful emissions into the environment, which will help us to have benefit the health of mankind. And as I said, environmental benefits also, it will really result in eco-friendly environment. It has economic benefit also, because the fuel cell industry is a multi-billion trillion dollar industry, so that will again rise up, and it will open up many avenues for manpower. And as said earlier, it will also help us in energy security benefits, be it creation of global connectivity, or it could be domestic construction of various plants, parts and equipment. So that way it has major benefits. And if we talk about the Indian scenario, so I'll be highlighting a case study of Kerala. So they are already running 15 fuel cell based buses, and there's a trial run for 20,000 kilometer in Delhi also, which is going around based on the hydrogen as a fuel. So various CSIR labs are also working in this hydrogen cell based technologies. So that way, people are believing and expecting the hydrogen-based future, but still trials are going around in and around India. And various, this is the Kerala H2 Mobility Roadmap, in which they have done the phase 1 and phase 2 trials for bus and car. So that way, this gives us a positive hope in this direction. And there are some key challenges also associated with hydrogen. So the key challenges basically based on the technology scale up is the major challenge, because if you talk about having fuel cell based electrical vehicles, so the device design, the engine design, that changes. So for that we need to have huge investments in this domain, and various sectors have to come forward and contribute to adopt this hydrogen. So that way, that technology scale up is one major issue. But if it accounts to a better future, so people are working in this domain, and but still that drift will require huge contributions from everyone. And apart from that, hydrogen has been in use as a feedstock in several industry segments for decades. So adopting hydrogen won't be that difficult because it is known already. But this technology scale up is one issue, and this collaborative research and great recognition for hydrogen is important for this energy transition. Conclusions and the future perspectives. So basically, I've talked about solar powered strategy for this hydrogen production fuel. So the major outlook of this basically focuses on cost effective photoelectrodes that are coming up, which will be based on the energy abundant materials in order to have high photon absorption and stability. And as we have talked about, so the flexible technology, flexible electronics is coming up. So people are working on flexible photoelectrodes in this direction, and to have paper as a substrate in order to reduce the cost of this photoelectrode fabrication. So that is one great arena that is opened up in this domain, and efficiency and stable devices is the another major outlook in this area. So the vision that we all are heading up is that we believe that water will be one day employed as fuel, and water will be the goal of future, and the green hydrogen is the future part that we believe. So for this technology, we have been indulged in various science outreach. So we go to schools, we demonstrate this beauty of hydrogen in various sectors, and have also represented India at very, various schemes. At BRICS, I've represented India in clean energy theme, and this green hydrogen was largely accepted there. And we have represented at various national and international platforms as well. So with this, I would like to acknowledge my mentors, Professor R.K. Sinha sir, Dr. Praveen Kumar sir, and Dr. Pooja ma'am, as well as the Director CSIO, and I also thank my colleague, late Mr. Rishabh Jain, DST, CSIR, ACSR family, and IEEE MSIT family, and also the blessings from my family and my fellow friends. So with this, thank you for listening, and I'm open for the queries in this regard. So this is the lush green campus of CSIO, which I'm showcasing here.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an informative session, for sharing your research work with all of us today, and for showing us the new aspects of green hydrogen and energy transitions. If anyone has any queries, please write them down in the chat box.
Ma'am, I would like to take up this. So you want to know about the byproducts in this process, and basically you're talking about oxygen. So, ma'am, as I stated, the byproduct of this process is only water. And oxygen we are, utilizing here for the, if you talk about the production stage, so the hydrogen which is getting evolved into the environment is safe, and it is the kind of pure hydrogen, oxygen which is getting decomposed from water. And if you talk about the application stage wherein we have fuel cells, so we are employing oxygen from the air in order to, have this electrical energy formed. So that way, the only byproduct is the water. Yes,
Thank
any
you,
other
ma'am,
question?
for answering the query. Anyone else? So I would like to culminate the session by thanking you once again for taking out time from your busy schedule and sharing your experience and wonderful success stories with all of us today. I would also like to thank Dr. A.K. Singh for gracing the occasion with his presence. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, IEEE MSIT family. Thank you very much.